last but not least, Bill Burr. Bill Burr's new special is called Paper Tiger. And I'll start off by saying, full disclosure, this was not my favorite Bill Burr special. It honestly wasn't even my favorite of these three that I mentioned. I would put it in the last place if I was measuring it up against these three. But like I said before, Bill Burr is like my top one or two favorite comic. And I've literally gone to go see him, and I saw him at MSG. My wife and I did, and had a blast. And I'm trying to remember, I think my favorite special from Bill Burr is the one that has the joke where he's like playing catch with his like imaginary kid, and he's like snapping at the kid and tells him to like turn around, and the kid's like, "But Dad, I want to look at you." That special, I gotta go back and watch it again. I remember just like nonstop laughing and like having to pause and rewind it because I was laughing so hard that I missed like the next bit. That was my favorite one, but that's definitely not saying that this one's like not worth watching or anything like that. It's just is what it is. It wasn't my number one, but if it was yours, I wouldn't be surprised either. It was interesting to see. It was fun to see Bill Burr as a new dad, even though like I've been exposed to that a bit. Listening to his podcast, the Monday morning podcast, and he mentions his daughter. You could hear her like in the background sometimes, and his wife and stuff like that, because he records the podcast mainly like from his house. Me being a new dad myself, I gravitate towards that. I like hearing other folks' experience or take on their version of the same experience that we're going through. And the way he's starting to like create bits and jokes around his daughter is interesting and funny. Particularly how he's like that his daughter has seen glimpses of him, of the real him, quote unquote, but he tries to like keep it together around her. But he has like such a bad temper that sometimes he like snaps or almost snaps, and he sees that she's like starting to like pick up with the fact that he's like a little psycho. So all that stuff was pretty funny. Him having to let go of his dog was sad. Cleo, she's been part of previous specials of his. She's been part of like big bits, and another one that I've heard in his podcast as well, like in the background and shit. And when he tells her to like leave the room because she's like fucking around with something or like scratching at the floor, that was fucking sad. But it was a mean fucking pit bull, and he has a little baby in the house now. So gotta pick one of them, right? I love Bill Burr's ability to, similar to Dave Chappelle, unapologetically attack social commentary. Or I said that wrong. They unapologetically provide social commentary and attack like the PC bullshit within it. I've always found that type of comedy to be refreshing. I remember not liking like segments of like having to do like robot sex doll stuff, which I didn't like too much. But it did remind me of Whitney Cummings' comedy special, which I also saw, and I thought was pretty good. Definitely had some funny moments, and I like Whitney Cummings. I listened to her on Rogan a bunch, and I've heard her on like The Fighter and the Kid and other podcasts as well. She, if you guys don't know, is a stand-up comic, obviously, and also a writer, and she was a creator of the show Two Broke Girls, which I thought was a very funny show that my wife actually put me onto it while she was watching it. Anyway, Whitney Cummings has a special called Can I Touch It? That's also out on Netflix that you guys should check out. The reason why that Bill Burr like robot sex doll stuff reminded me of her was because she had a life-size artificial intelligence doll replica of herself made. I hope I heard wrong, but I believe she said that she wasted $250,000 to get this done. $250,000. I hope she said $25,000 or misspoke and meant $25,000. which to me in and of itself would be insane. But 250,000 is like sick. But I also want that number to be true because it's like awesome to see like comics having like fuck you money at that level while and from doing what they love to do. But anyway, this life-size look-alike robot thing, artificial intelligence thing, she brought it to Rogan's podcast, so I like saw it on there for the first time. She speaks about it like throughout the special, and then she winds up bringing it out at the end, which was pretty funny, and does like the end of her like last couple bits or whatever with the robot there. And after the special, which is the coolest part, she shows like the whole process of having this robot created, which she had spoken about on Rogan's podcast. And I think it was like a several month long process to creating like specific molds where she had to like dip her head in molds and like her face and her ears. She has she has dogs, I believe pit bulls as well actually. And one of them, she was like playing with it and like roughhousing or whatever. And one of them like bit her ear, like playing around, but it's a fucking pit bull. So their playing around bite is like a real fucking bite, and it bit off like a piece of her ear. And she had to have I think she has a scar, or she had to have it like sewn back on or some shit like that. But anyway, like all those scars and stuff, like the detail, it's so detailed, like the molds that they made to create the AI robot of her, that it also has like all those like ear scars and like shit like that. It was like a sick process the way they showed it, but really interesting. Anyway, that's what that portion of Burr's special made me think of. But yeah, I love the social commentary, and Bill Burr is absolutely one of the GOATs, one of my favorites, and I'm glad folks like him and Chappelle and Schultz are out there pushing the envelope in a freedom of speech, say whatever the fuck you want to say when you want to say it type of way, checking the bullshit that needs to be checked, and allowing for others' right to do the same. And with that, folks, I wrap up episode 136 of the Spun Today Podcast.